What's going on, GPS tracking installers? Tom Keenan here. Got on about a minute early, just so we can kind of let Facebook's algorithm do its thing. Let it notify everyone that that we're here, and so we can get Mr. Dean Mercado on the line as well. Let me give me a minute here. Let me see if I can get this invite done real quick. There he is.
Hey, Tom.
Good day, sir. Good to see you.
Okay, getting you, let's see. Let's try this. How about that? Is that any better?
Yeah, honestly, it looks great.
Okay, very cool.
Cool.
Very cool. Of course, Facebook has to do an update on my phone 2 seconds before. So, of course, that throws things into a little bit of a weird thing. Let me shut down my other Facebook. I was going to plan B because the phone decided to have a different agenda.
Yeah, you know what?
Which I totally get.
Every time that I do one of these with somebody, the same thing happens. Whether I'm in your role or reversed, the same shit happens.
Right.
You know, Facebook Live is definitely not perfected at this point in time.
Right.
Whatever. It's a cool tool. It's free, and it allows us to do things like this, which is ultimately going to just help other people who are out there in business.
You bet. Totally get that.
Yeah. So let me take a quick minute here to introduce yourself to the group. Obviously, we're inside of my Facebook group, which is GPS Tracking Installers. It's a big group. We're up to, I think, 328 people, roughly, as of yesterday. And they all do what I do. They're all colleagues within my industry, some at different levels. Some come from the manufacturer side. Some come, from the solopreneur side. Some come from larger organizations, larger than us, in between the whole 9 yards. So there's definitely a good. Thanks, Frank. Let me fix that real quick. Hold on.
Mm-hmm.
That should be a little bit better. If not,
yep.
I can change my position here. Yeah.
There you go. Even better.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, as discussed, and everyone here knows, today's call is going to be about core values and why you need them. And let me backtrack a second, because what I was getting into there was kind of to give an introduction here to Dean. Dean Mercado is a rock star. He's been a small business owner longer than I have. It's got to be, Dean, what, 15 years, 20 years roughly?
Yeah.
If you combine everything.
Something like that.
Yeah. He is currently the CEO and owner of Online Marketing Muscle, based out of Hauppauge, New York. They do a lot of really cool shit. Web design, automated email marketing, coaching. I know I'm missing stuff here because it's an endless list. But what I'm going to do here, Dean, after we're done with this video, I'm going to throw up some links to your website. I'm going to throw up links to your book, The Mind Stretch.
Great.
Yeah, on top of Dean being a rockstar business owner, he's also an author of a book. I happen to have it here. I can show everybody. Here we go. And even though it's backwards, I know.
Right.
I'll put a link up to it. So you guys, Facebook Live is just not perfect.
Right.
So anyway, Dean comes to us today with a wealth of knowledge. I worked with Dean 3 years, it's got to be.
Yeah, about that.
And Dean definitely took, my business, Top Class Installations, and brought it to a completely different level. It was not easy. It still isn't easy. It's a long road. I think it's a road that never ends, as long as you're willing to continually gradually get better every day. The sky's the limit. So one thing that I had a really tough time grasping when I first started working with you was core values and why they were so important. And I think it took several swift kicks in the ass from you and from some others within my circle to really get that, that drilled into my head of why they were needed. And I can definitely tell you, once we implemented them into the business and started living, breathing, and operating based on those core values, the whole world changed.
Right.
A lot of things happened. So I know you're an expert in this, and I want to just basically hand over the platform to you and say, hey, why does everyone need this? I think a lot of people are like, well, every business has core values. You walk into the wall of this big company, and on the wall is, you know, all these core values, and you walk in there and it means shit. Which
Right.
happens a lot
Exactly.
too. You know, it's just crap on
Exactly.
the wall, and no one pays attention to it or really follows through with it. And that, to me, that's just a waste of time. So
Sure.
what are core values? How do you implement them into your business? And then how do you build a company culture around those core values so that everyone is kind of staying the course?
Sure. First and foremost, thank you for having me here. And thank you for everybody, as I'm seeing some names pop up. So we got some folks joining us here, which is great. You know, I have to say it the easy way. You know, I've got I went to school. I did the college route. I got my MBA. No matter, you know, they could teach you some of these things in school, but until you hit that point where you're able to apply them and live them, then you actually can understand what the value is in doing them. So it's core values. For many of us small business owners, we're still so much locked into the technician, where I got to do it. It's got to be me. Let me get my hands under the hood of that vehicle. Let me rip that dashboard off. I can't, you know, that's just that technician mentality in us that sometimes is our biggest challenge, what holds us back. So the core values, in my opinion, and I'm sure this is the opinion of many others who are experts in this area, they're really your guiding principles.
Mm-hmm.
They are what indicates and what dictates how you're going to carry yourself, what your behavioral guidelines should be like. So for example, you know, any company that decides that they're going to, this is how we're going to conduct ourselves. And best way is probably an example. Let me use an example. Let's take Southwest Airlines, right? Southwest Airlines came upon the scene and all of a sudden they exploded. And people, and the big airlines were like, how is this happening? How is this possible? Now, Southwest Airlines basically built their business and they modeled around a specific core value. Any idea, Tom, what that might be? Think about Southwest Airlines. Have you ever flown Southwest?
No, but I've read a lot about them.
Okay. So the experience when you get on the plane is all based around this core value. And that, you know, so when they're starting to introduce and say, hey, you know, we're going to go through the safety regimen and all of that stuff, they're joking through the whole thing. So their core value, their main core value is fun. Mm-hmm. It's making light of things. So when you see a company like that, it's not just about, as you mentioned earlier, Tom, yeah, we could all take it and post it on our walls. I got mine posted on my wall too, up there somewhere. As you can probably see, I'll angle up towards it or somewhere. Here it is. Here's another one, right? We got them too. We post them around. It means nothing until you lead with it. And what I mean by that is, yeah, it's one thing if, Tom, you're the owner of your company and you come up with some values that you feel strongly about. But you know what? If you're not living them as the leader of your company, if you're not demonstrating them on a regular basis, if you're not making decisions based on those core values, you're not living from them genuinely and authentically, people aren't going to live by them either. They're not going to follow you. They're not going to follow suit. So those core values tend to be like a thread. I want you to imagine a thread weaved throughout your entire team, that everything you do comes back to that. So with Southwest Airlines, everything that everybody does comes back to, are we making this a fun experience?
Right.
Right. So as we think about our own companies, what are those 1, 2, 3 different core values that are something we live by? Now, let me get a little clearer. When I talk about core values are not meant to be things we want to aspire to be someday. Right? It's not about aspirational goals. It's about reality. Mm-hmm. Right? It's, you know, when I'm meeting with a team member and I'm trying to help them grow and develop, it's not about, you know, talking about something that's out there somewhere. It's talking about, this is who we are today. This is who we expect you to be today.
Right.
So and that's a big misconception I see a lot of companies make, as they come up with these crazy core values that, oh yeah, and here's some of the common ones, right, is integrity. We're all about integrity. Are you really? let's take a look at that. Number one, it's overused. It's like in my world, coming back many years, it was always about quality. We offer quality this, we offer quality that. What, as opposed to what? You know what I mean? Doesn't everybody? So at some point, things become watered down.
Yeah.
They become overused, right? So it's all about team. There's another one that gets used a lot. Now, I'm not saying you can't use these ones, but you got to make sure that there's something that are distinctly you. What makes you you? What made Southwest Airlines Southwest Airlines? The fun of it. People would go and they'd love to watch the joking around instead of it being such a boring, and I used to fly a lot many years ago when I was corporate America, big corporate America. And it's like, after you've heard one speech on how to the safety check and all of that stuff, you've heard them all.
Yeah,
right? Southwest Airlines was the first one that caught my attention. Like, wow, this is really cool. They're making fun of it. Okay, this is fun. Broke a smile. That's good. So again, when we're talking about core values, these are your guiding principles. And they have to be guiding principles that fit, not something that you want to be in 10 years. Right. So if you're a company already and you have an existing team, yes, your core values are going to be influenced by the leaders of that team. There's no doubt about that. But the best core values are going to be the ones that are developed with the team. If you intend on keeping those people, then you really should involve them in the process of determining who are we? How do we want to conduct ourselves? What makes us us? What's going to make us differentiate from the competition? Now I'm getting into the marketing side. So it all ties together.
Sure it does.
So it's virtually impossible to differentiate if your core values that hang on the wall say integrity. It's the same thing every single company says. So what am I supposed to think? That you were lying to me otherwise, or that everyone else would be lying to me? Have no integrity? So it's about being in the now, finding what matters. Who are you really? And it's going to take some soul searching. So you may want to put together, work with your team and do a brainstorming session and say, I want you to think about who is the epitome of what we do, who on this team. And you don't have to tell us who that is. Think in your mind of who that player is on our team that just, man, if we were all like that, we'd be great.
Sure.
Or I love the way this person does that. Or this is how we, what we do really well is this. And then as a leadership team, you pull all of those ideas together and you start boiling them down. It's almost like, okay, well, these four that you mentioned are kind of the same thing. Let's put them together. Let's group these three together. And say, what's the best word to describe these four? What's the best word to describe these six, these three, so on and so forth. And then you come up with something that you co-created now with your team. So what do you think, Tom? Would they be a little bit more willing to buy into it and to live by it?
Sure, especially when you get the team involved,
Right.
Listen, looking back at it now, and we did ours close to 2 years ago. It was,
right,
no exaggeration, it was a 6-month process from the time we said, holy shit, we actually need these things called core values, to the time where we actually fleshed everything out over and over and over again, drilled down, and finally we came up with our list of 6. So it was not an easy process. And we didn't do it with the team. Myself and my partner Jimmy and you in your office, we basically came in and session after session after session. But one of the things that I did to start it, and this might go for other people who have other co-owners within their business, you need to figure out your own personal core values before you figure out your business core values.
Yes, absolutely.
Because
I totally agree with
yes, they're related, but they're also separate.
Correct.
So, for me, and I say this all the time, and Dean, you're well aware of it since you know Jimmy very well. Jimmy and I are polar opposite people. He has strengths, and I suck at some of his strengths, and vice versa. We're just like yin and yang. For instance, Jimmy wouldn't be caught dead coming here on camera, but here I am. But at the same point in time, Jimmy's out there running his ship.
Right.
So, Dean, can you see me moving around here live? Good to go.
I mean, can I see you saying? Yeah. I could see you fine, yeah.
All right, cool. Yeah, some guys are saying they're having issues seeing us, but it might be on their end. So,
right. So yeah, I see you fine. I hear you fine.
all right, cool. So, all right. Yeah. So basically what one of the things that I did was, in order to kick the process off, was I
Right.
went to about 10 people who were very close to me, my wife,
Right.
parents, close friends. And I said, you know,
Right.
here's a list of words, you know, that I think kind of are my core values. Could you kind of just go through here and give me some feedback of these, you
Sure.
know, 15, 20, 30 words? Which one suits me best in your eyes? And
Right.
I use their feedback to kind of dig into my own personality a little bit more and figure out more about myself.
Right.
And I used that, and I kept breaking it down, breaking it down, breaking it down. And then I came up with a couple of core values for myself personally. Once I got clear on that, we came back into the office and we sat down again, me, you, and Jimmy, and we drilled shit down for weeks. It was several sessions that we went in there and we dug through it, you know. And you'll notice that a lot of the core values that you're talking about, a lot of the things you come up with, they're very similar, as you mentioned before, and they become redundant at some point. Like, you know, this word means the same as this word, it's just said differently. And you kind of got to figure out which one is which. And one of the things that took time for me personally was looking at those words and then going online and researching their actual meanings on all the different online dictionaries, because every online dictionary gives you a different term. And once we got real clear on what those were, then it came in to basically putting not just a word down, but putting a phrase along with that word to give it true meaning.
Sure, exactly.
That was difficult.
Exactly.
It really took time, you know, and I know a lot of the solopreneurs in here are like, I don't have time for that shit. Well, neither did we. But I got to tell you, once it was done, it was a night and day difference within our organization. You know?
Right. Well, the key there is, Tom, again, it's we're transitioning from being a technician to being a business owner.
Right.
And that's a huge leap for many of us. The problem is in small business, we don't know what we don't know. Mm-hmm. And the challenge there is, I know when I came out of big corporate America, I was making good money there. I decided, you know what, I'm making them a fortune. If I could just make a little bit for myself, do my own thing. I'm tired of answering to someone else, doing it their way, flying all over the world. You know, I just want to do my own thing. Mm-hmm. Again, I didn't know what I didn't know. And consequently, I got my rear end kicked all over the planet because I didn't know what was coming. I couldn't see it, you know. So fortunately, I'm still standing after all of these years. That's great. You know, online marketing muscle is going towards, I don't know how many years. We're in our 14th year now. Not bad. You know, that's an eternity. In my industry, it's an eternity. We were one of the first in the online marketing space. You know, I've watched many people come and go in that time frame. So again, we don't know what we don't know. And the challenge is, if we ever want to scale, we ever want to become more, we ever want to have more, we have to first become more. Part of becoming more is understanding who we are, what makes us tick, what makes us different, what makes us better. Why should somebody hire you and not her or him? Why? And it's not just because you wear cool shoes. I mean, come on, dude. I mean, we got to be real with ourselves here. You know, so core values is a way of doing a little introspective, you know, introspection on ourselves. Who are we? Mm-hmm. Right? What do we stand for? What do we stand against? Those are important when you're talking core values. Sure. People, if you want people to do the work the way you want them to do the work, you want them to care about it the way you care about your business. If you're not connected and woven together somehow, and core values, that's the threads. Mm-hmm. That's what weaves you together. That's what bonds you to your team and your team to you. And in essence, it bonds you to your clients and your clients to you. This is what creates loyalty between people. But when we don't have common threads, then what happens? We all have our own agenda. And as long as both of our agendas are being served, we're okay to come together for a moment. But as soon as, you know, that bright, shiny object comes, this person's veering off that way because that looks a little sexier to them. Mm-hmm. They lost sight of what was really important.
Sure.
So by defining the core values and continuously bringing it into the conversations, everything you do, bringing it in. You know, when you're speaking with a colleague, you know, and you're hearing certain language, call them on that language if it's inconsistent with your core values.
Mm-hmm.
If you're seeing them, if one of your core values is positivity, like one of mine is, you know, I'm going to always call somebody out when they're being negative. I don't want negative around me. I'm too positive of a guy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm a happy guy. I don't want somebody trying to drag me down. I don't need that in my life. Life is too short. So again, if we want to have more, we got to be willing to do more. In order to do more, we got to become more, right? So we become more by identifying who are we? What do we stand for? What do we stand against?
Yeah.
And it's such a fundamental question to ask, and we suck at it because one of the things humans suck at is introspection.
Mm-hmm.
We think we look like this, but we look like this. You know what I mean? And it's like it's hard to really to be critical of yourself. You know, and that's the hard part about it. It's part of why it took you 6 months. You know, as you're kind of finding your way through the process of saying, well, who am I? What, you know, do you think of this? Do you think of me when you hear this word? Why not? You know, you don't think of me. Wow, okay, I thought I was this. So a lot of times what we think is not the reality out there. It's like, you ever listen to your voice back on tape?
Yeah, it doesn't even sound like you.
You know, I'm dating myself by saying tape. But, you know, you record yourself and you sound completely different to you because the way you sound to yourself is you're hearing yourself from your inner ear. You don't hear it from out here somewhere. You know, so it's same kind of concept that we're talking about here. So we want to become more. So we start thinking about what are those common threads that I want to build a team around. I want to bond with people. I want to find clients who also share similar core values. My best clients over the years have always been ones that we had shared core values. Mm-hmm. Because then it became a loyalty thing where it's like my clients would do anything for us and we would do anything for them.
Sure.
You care about them more when you're connecting on a certain level.
I agree.
It's much deeper than a transaction. Mm-hmm. Right? It's like, oh, $1.99, I'll buy that. It's much deeper than transactional. Mm-hmm. Right? So, and that's where we want to get to when we talk about core values. Now, I get it. As a small business, we got to make money. We got to make stuff happen. If there's no revenue coming in, we die. No sales equals no business. I get that. So we're not saying stop doing all of your business and just sit back and do your core values. That's baloney. You know, that's the stuff they taught us in college. That stuff don't work. You take it from me, I've been through all the college stuff. Doesn't work. I tried applying it. Doesn't work. You know, and here's the kicker too. What you think your core values are today, and this is probably where I stand a little alone amongst peers, where I think a little differently about this, that your core values are allowed to evolve.
Totally.
Because your core values, that what you stand for today may not be what you stand for 5 years from now. Right? Because your life changes. We get older. We mature. We've had different experiences to pull from. So we don't just stick it on the wall and then say, it's done. We never have to think about it again. Then you wasted your time. Don't bother. Yeah. You know, but if you're truly looking for a way to differentiate, to scale your business, to connect deeper with team members and with clients, to attract better team members and better clients, then you owe it to yourself to take a few moments and just think through, who am I? What do I stand for? What do I stand against? Such simple questions, but are they?
Right. Simple,
but not easy, as I'll always say. Yeah, they're simple, but it's not easy because that amount of introspection you really need to do is you know, it's scary to a lot of us. Sure. We don't want to admit weaknesses. We don't want to admit that maybe we're not as cool as we think we are. Mm-hmm. But you know what? That's how we grow. Yeah. And hopefully you got people around you who care about you enough to call you out on it.
Totally.
You know, my personal core values are 3. Love, create, learn. Love, create, learn in that order.
Mm-hmm.
That is the pecking order. So love will always trump everything else I do.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now, one of the reasons I coach in my business is because that's my way of expressing love to my clients. I'm giving them the best of what I got to help them get from where they are to get to where they want to be.
Mm-hmm.
Now, most of them think that, because we play so hard in the marketing vein, that it's just about, well you just got to give me the latest marketing trick. No, baloney. I could give Tom, you, this one marketing trick, and give this guy over here the same exact thing. And he'll knock it out of the park and you'll suck at it.
Right.
And you're doing the same exact thing, following the same paint by numbers.
Mm-hmm.
But yours looks terrible and his is gorgeous.
Sure.
Now, this is where we have to realize we're all individuals.
Mm-hmm.
We all bring different things to the table. So it's not just about the formula, right? It's not just the formula that we're talking about here. It goes way deeper than that. And everything we do, has to stem and to tie together with these things. So if I'm ever conducting my business from a space of hate,
mm-hmm.
I'm not going to succeed, because I'll be completely out of integrity, not only with myself, but with everybody that I'm coming into contact with and spewing my vomit, my hate on everybody,
Sure.
so to speak. So you have to be congruent. Everything you do. Now, that sounds exhausting, but you know what? It gets really freaking easy when you practice.
Mm-hmm.
When you start realizing what's important to you. If another one of my personal core values, which is the learning side of it. Yeah, I'm the guy who's reading a book a week. So we were talking about some really cool stuff, and we were talking about becoming more,
mm-hmm.
So that you can have more ultimately. And in order to become more and have more, it does take team. You could be a one-man operation, and that's great. If that's all you want, there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But I can tell you it's a hell of a lot sweeter and a lot more fun with people around you to share. Everything.
Right, especially when those people's core values match yours, because they're just in alignment with you on a way different level, different plane.
You bet.
Than just some schmuck you hired off the street to turn a wrench for you or do whatever it is within your business.
You bet. So think, Tom, of one of your favorite guys on your team, and I won't ask you who, because
Sure.
That's not right. But the key is it makes your day, doesn't it, when you see that person succeed?
Absolutely, it does.
It makes your day when you're able to give them more,
mm-hmm.
when you're able to show up more powerfully for them, and they get it and they appreciate it, because you share common core values.
Sure.
So as you think about, what do we stand for? What do we stand against?
Mm-hmm.
How do we want others to perceive us? These are questions we want you to ask. Now, I jotted down a few concepts that I want to share with you here as well, in analyzing your current core values. So for those of you who have already done a little bit of work on yourself here and you think you got your core values down, right? I want you to run it across these 7 or so points. And number 1, does that core value properly define you? Very simple question. Does it really properly define you? Second one, and this is the marketing hat comes on. Does it differentiate you? Or does it make you look like everybody else? Does it differentiate you? The third, and this one's key. Are you obsessed with it? Where it just oozes out of you. You don't do it because you have to sit there and make a conscious choice. You do it because that's just the way you normally behave. It's just the way you do things.
Right.
And so if it comes naturally, then yeah, that's a great core value. Then you want to look at the fourth one, right? Is it within your control? And this is a tough one, because a lot of us, we have those aspirational ones that are up there somewhere. But you know what? Sometimes those things aren't in our control. So we got to be realistic with ourselves too and say, you know what? While that sounds good and I'd love to aspire to be that, I can't control that. All I can control is what I do, how I carry myself, how I behave, how I show up for others. Right? So that's a big one. Then I've got a fifth one. Can it outlive you? Because it needs to. It needs to be bigger than you. If you're the owner of your company, it can't be just about you. It's got to be bigger. Right.
And
So
you're going deep here. You're going way deep here, way beyond core values, and you're going more into the whole vision and mission, which is part of core values. They're all intertwined, and I totally get that. And I think a lot of people don't understand that as well,
right. So clarify where you need to, but I'm expecting people on this Facebook Live gamut. So there's going to be some of them on here that are running rockstar businesses. They're doing great things. Yourself is a perfect example, so you want to go a little deeper. You want to think a little bit harder about, what? Can this core value be carried on beyond me, or am I the only sustenance it has?
Yeah.
Am I the only thing keeping it alive? If I am, it's a bad core value for the company.
I agree.
Because
or you have the wrong people.
That's right. Exactly. So it forces you to look at your company in a different way. Again, we're trying to find the core fabrics that make our threads better than any other company out there. And believe me, your prospects and your clients, they can smell it.
Yeah, totally.
So if your threads are great, they know, they can tell, they can see you look put together. You got it going on. You're getting a gig, not that other company.
Sure.
Right. So that was the fifth one. The sixth one is it realistic? Is it realistic? How do you, when you define a specific word, how do I live up to that? Sometimes we choose words like that. It's not possible. 100% of the time, we have to be realistic about how we conduct ourselves. And the last one that I put down was, are you willing to sacrifice to get it? To be it? Are you willing to sacrifice profits? Are you willing to sacrifice clients? Are you willing to sacrifice team members that just don't resonate with it? Because that's the true telltale. And if you're a leader, I'm saying you got to toughen up a little bit here.
Yeah.
Because you got to look at, what are you tolerating in your business? Am I tolerating people that just aren't respecting what we say we stand for? So maybe they don't stand for it too. Well, then you really do have to ask, are they the right person for this team? It doesn't mean they're a bad person. And I want you to be clear on that. They could be wonderful. Well, then go have a beer with them.
Right.
Doesn't mean they need to be on your team. In a sense, it's being selfish. You're being selfish. You're holding them back from going wherever they're supposed to go.
I was just going to say,
let them go find the right team. Right. And if you truly want to scale, if you truly want to become more, if you truly want to create a business that's respectable, something that you go home at the end of the day and you say, wow, this was awesome. What a great day. I love what I do. This is part of that equation. You have to go here, in my opinion. Now, I didn't believe this 10 years ago. This is part of when I was kicking, screaming. I didn't want to take the time out to do it. I didn't see the value in it. And then when you study people who are crushing it, you study people who are where you want to be, you'll start to see a pattern. They all got this stuff down. It's not just lip service.
It's very true.
Especially when we're in a company size where, we're not a solopreneur anymore, and we're not yet 5,000 employees. Because core values get lost in those big companies. Sure. They become that sign on the wall that no one watches, no one looks at. That's what you were referring to. But when you're 10 people, when you're 15 people, when you're 5 people, if you don't have those threads, it makes it really difficult to squeeze the most out of the team. It makes it very difficult for the team to pull together and rally around something special.
Sure.
But when let's say you got a 5-person team and you're all in alignment, you folks are like this. You know what? When you need something, they're there. When they need something, you're there. There's never a question of can we get it done? Yeah, you're going to get it done. Your team rallies, or you will make it happen. And it's not about, well, you know, Tom, I worked 8 hours and 15 minutes. Aren't I going to get paid for the extra 15 minutes? You know, when the core values are aligned, they really don't care as much about the 15 minutes. You know, especially if you're the proper leader and you're giving them the proper stroke and saying, hey, man, I get what you just did for us. Thank you.
Sure.
I really appreciate you and how you show up for us and how you make us better and how you keep us in alignment and congruent with who we say we are. You know, powerful stuff and deep, yes. You know, it's not for the meek. So if you're meek, you're going to hate me and you're going to hate everything that Tom and I are talking about here today. Because I tell you, this stuff it's simple, but it's not easy. Does anybody get that? Anybody still on the line here that kind of gets that concept?
Yeah, there's a couple people, but we lost a bunch on our transition, unfortunately. But I'm actually going to take these video clips and stitch them together and then post this up on YouTube. That way everyone gets to see it forever and ever.
Sure. So, yeah. So in a nutshell, I mean, core values, right? It's what we stand for. It's what we stand against. Yeah. It's the simplest definition.
I read a really good book a couple weeks ago called "You Need More Money" by this guy named Matt Monero. He's out of Dallas.
Excellent.
He runs a $100 million plus business. I think he said he's on track to do $180 million this year in revenue, which is
nice,
crazy. Anyway, he is big into core values, big time. And in his book, he basically says you need to put a doorkeeper in place. So you set your core values, you figure out what they are, and now you have a doorkeeper right there. And that person lets in only things with core values and rejects everything else. And if it's against your core values and it's already in there, he throws them right out.
Right. Exactly. You know, I mean, there's a reason why Matt's successful.
Yeah.
This is part of it. Exactly what you're saying. And it's like, hey, folks, we can kick and scream all we want and say, no, I just got to install another GPS device.
Right.
Baloney. I've seen it. You will burn out. At some point, we have to grow. At some point, we have to be willing to listen to other possibilities.
Sure.
You know, and it's a tough transition going from the technician to the business owner. It's a big gap. It may not seem like it is, and it may seem like, oh, it's no big deal. I just get little Johnny to come help me do that install over there. No, you know, that's fine if that's all you want for that day. But if you truly do want to build something special, even something that at the end of the day, you look in the mirror and you feel great. You feel like, you know what? I love what I'm doing here. I am so fortunate to be able to have the freedom that I have. And that's part of the most wonderful parts about being a business owner is the freedom it buys you.
Sure.
Now, hopefully you didn't get into this to just create a job for yourself. But that's what most of you did. And I don't even know most of you, but I can guarantee you that most of you watching and that will watch, that's what we do. I did it too. It doesn't mean we're not smart. It just, you get caught up in the motion. You get caught up in the moment. You get caught up doing instead of being.
Yeah.
You know, and we start to think that, wow, if I slow down my doing, it's not going to get done. No, sometimes it's about taking a step back and saying, how do I do this smarter?
Yeah, and you also become the bottleneck within the business. You know,
that was me. For years. For years. And it's like, sometimes it's the hardest thing is to see it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's where coaches are great. They call you out. That's where good friends are great. They will call you out. Mastermind groups are great. They will call you out and say, what are you doing, pal? You know, why are you doing this to yourself? It doesn't need to be that way.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've had that conversation lots over the years with many, many different business owners at all different levels. And I tell you, even the best of them kick and scream through that conversation. Sure. They don't want to hear it.
Well, it's always,
who's done it.
Oh, just, you know what? Just get out of the way. I'll get it done in 3 seconds because I know exactly what to do. And they are 100% right. The problem is all that genius is stuck in your head and you have yet to train someone else on how to do it the way that you would do it. And it all goes back to and begins with core values.
Right. So what happens the next time that same thing needs to get done again? you got to do it again.
Yeah.
And then if the same thing needs to get done again tomorrow, you got to do it again. So what you did is you bought yourself a job. You did not create a business for yourself. You know, so we have to sometimes realize that it's critical that we lay the proper foundation, that we make investments in people. Part of making those investments is core values. Part of making those investments is showing the vision. Where are we going? Hey, folks, everyone on the bus, we're going here. If that's where you want to go to, that's where we're going. And this is how we're going to conduct ourselves during this process. This is who we are. Does this resonate with you? If this does, you're on the right bus, man. Let's go.
Yep.
You know, if this doesn't resonate, you may want to consider a different company. So I see some of the biggest mistakes I see is that people will forego what they stand for to keep that rock star on their team, even though the rock star does not resonate with the values and operates differently than everybody else.
Yep.
And I don't mean different better. Yeah, they get a certain result, and that's cool. I'm glad they can get a result. But if that person does not operate on the same frequency as the business owners, as the rest of the team, it's like I look at it like baseball, you know, football, hockey, any sport. You could say I'm a big Yankee fan, right? You get a guy like years back, guy like Alex Rodriguez. Most of you probably heard of the guy. He was a phenomenal baseball player. You can't take one guy. One guy does not make a team. If you mortgage your whole future to do on his own to win a World Series, it takes team. When you have a team that's pulled together, they may not all be rock stars, but you know what? They're woven of the same fabric, cut from the same cloth. They operate in unison with one another.
Right.
That team hums. That's the team you want. Right? So sometimes, you know, I mean, I've had to say to clients, sometimes you need to get rid of that guy. Yeah. What do you mean get rid of that guy? That guy does this, and it. Yeah, but look what they're doing everywhere else. Look at how everyone else behaves when that guy's around. You know, look at how other people just sit there and they're afraid to do anything now. They just sit there because they don't want that guy to yell at them.
Yeah, we've been down that road in our business. You know, we had certain clients that just weren't working for us. And, you know, it goes back to Pareto's principle, better known as the 80-20 rule. You know, 20% of your clients give you 80% of your grief.
Correct.
You know,
That's totally
and
correct.
Then you have to look at that 20% once you have your core values fleshed out, and you have to say, hey, does this client or customer align with my core values? And if they don't, make a decision. And it's definitely a challenge in this line of work because a lot of clients who are giving us grief and flack, we're not working for them directly because we're subcontractors for the most part. So that might be a client of a client. But then it is, you go back and you have to look at where the source is coming from. You know, is this, let's just call it a GPS company for shits and giggles. Is this GPS company the 20%? Are they the one who gives me the crappiest customers on the planet? And everyone in this group knows it's usually tow truck drivers and trash truck companies. Just throwing that out there.
Right. And I'll tell you, Tom, I mean, you know, I know you and I know Jimmy pretty well at this point. We've been together for a few years. I've seen you guys go through this where you've had to release a partner because they just didn't fit right. You know, and it's about looking sometimes, you know, yeah, we got 40 partners now. We're lined up all these partners. They're all feeding us work. But you know what? If partner one is feeding you crap, why do you want that partner?
You know,
just because they're feeding you doesn't mean it's a good thing. If they're feeding you 80% of your problems, then why do you want that partner? So part of being a great leader, a tough leader, you got to be strong. You got to be willing to sacrifice, to give up things that don't fit. Your core values help you identify what fits and what doesn't. Because one of the things that happens to us as small business owners is we tend to have these goggles on, right? Where it's just like, oh, it's money. I just need to make money. You know, you also need to be happy. And you've got to ask yourself, is there any price tag that's worth sacrificing your happiness for? If you're bringing that crap home to your kids and your family and your girlfriend and your boyfriend and whomever, you know, you really got to check yourself and say, what am I doing here? I don't care how much money they're willing to pay me. It's not worth it, because now I'm not in congruency with my own values.
Right.
What I stand for, you know, and that at the end of the day, I'm not happy. You know, so you got to look at what's important. And you, as you brought up earlier, Tom, you got to understand what your own personal core values are. But you also do have to understand that as a company, you want to come together and you want to identify what are our core values. What do we stand for? What do we stand against? And you want to put every one of those core values that bubbles to the top through the mill, run them through a series of questions to really define whether or not these things really do fit us.
Sure.
Or they just sound cool.
Yeah.
You know,
hey,
they look impressive.
Let me ask you a question so we can kind of get into the nuts and bolts of this. What do you recommend for someone who's going out and they're like, all right, you guys sold me on this whole core values thing. I believe it. I'm into it. Now the question is, how do I determine my core values? You know, if you I Googled the shit out of it, and there's crap on the internet regarding core values, by the way. I know what I did, and I'd be willing to share that with anyone here. I don't want to take up too much time in the video. Coming from you, the expert who's done this with numerous small businesses across the country, where do we start? How do you do it? How do you do it efficiently? What's step one, and then how do you know you're done?
Right. Well, I think step one as a leader, and this depends too on the sizes of your team. Many of us might be a one-person operation. We might be a three-person operation. You know, a couple of subcontractors and us. You know, it's and asking yourself that question flat out. What do I stand for personally? What do I stand against personally? You know, and you could usually tell by just look at the things that, as you notice your moods through the day. What are those things that are making you smile during the day? What are those things that are making you angry during the day? You might see every time I bump into so-and-so, I get pissed off. You know, well, they tend to have qualities, that person, that you don't resonate with. Those are not your core values. You're probably the opposite. So you can learn as much from what not to do as you can from what you are doing.
Yeah.
What to do. So, you know, so you got to really look at yourself as the first thing and say, what fits? Now you can try on all different kinds of words and you can go through that process that way. But I don't know that sits as well. Give yourself permission to adopt a set that seemed good on the surface, and then watch yourself during the course of a week. See if you're living into those. Do they make sense? So, like I said, my three personals are love, create, learn. Love, create, learn. So, you know, I look at everything I do and I say, is this giving me the ability to express love? This is. Facebook Live is. That's what I'm doing right now. So I'm living into what I'm saying. So I'm congruent with my actions are matching my words. So it's not just, you know, it's not do as I say, it's do as I do. Watch me. You know, I lead by example. You know, so lead your own life. Look at how you're leading in your own life. What's working for you? You know, if you're naturally a funny guy, then maybe humor has to work its way in.
Yeah.
If you're naturally a very serious guy, but a very well-learned guy, you read a lot of books, then maybe the concept of learning has to work its way in. So it's about looking for patterns in your own world. Now, in terms of taking that to your company, if you do have a team that you like, then I would bring them into the conversation.
See if we can get Mr. Dean Mercado back on here to wrap this video up. If not, we're coming to the end here anyway, but we got a bunch of really good, solid information. Some huge value bombs were dropped by Dean. He's, as you can see, a very passionate guy. Loves what he does, and he's been a real big help to us over here at Top Class over the past 3 years. Has definitely helped us go from a much smaller, pretty much a 2 or 3 person operation on up to right now we got about 15 people on the team in total. So he's definitely a person to follow. Again, I'm going to post up links to his website, his book, all that kind of stuff. What's going on, Frank? As you can see, guys, we're having some issues with Facebook Live, which does not surprise me whatsoever. I have never done a Facebook Live with another person that has gone smooth, which is kind of ridiculous with today's technology. Wild. But anyway, that's it. So give Dean a second here if he can get back on. If not, then we'll bring this to an end. I just didn't want to leave you guys hanging there since the video kind of crapped out in the middle. Hey, Devin, thanks for coming back in, sir. So going back to when Top Class, when we decided that we needed core values, it was quite simple. We had 3 horrendous hires back to back to back. They came in, we trained them, we got them operational, and within 3 months, they were gone. Devin, I'll get to that right now. So when we implemented core values, we decided, all right, communication. There's a bunch of them. I'll actually share my core values with you guys here in the group. I have no problem with anybody in this group stealing them and using them, as long as you adapt them to yourselves and implement them into your business. It will definitely make a difference. We decided we needed core values because we designed and built a hiring process and baked the core values into it. So when we hire someone, we bring somebody onto our team, we actually get them dragged through the core values. Do they align with our core values? So the hiring questions, the interview questions, they all surround or about what the core values are. And we kind of try and weed out the bullshit depending on the core values and the answers to the questions. So since we have started implementing our core values now, which is close to 2 years ago, we've hired 1, 2, 3, 4, about 5 people. And those 5 hires since we implemented core values are still with my team today, and some of them are going on multiple years. So we didn't eliminate our hiring woes completely, but what we did was we made the process so stringent and so aligned with our core values that it only allowed in the people who were a proper fit for our organization. Now, beyond core values, we also implemented our vision, which is basically our why or our purpose. And then we also put in there our mission. So give you, for instance, our why is to bring efficiency to life. Our purpose is to install 1 million tracking devices and dash cameras by 2025. So those 3 things make up the vision. So your vision is your why or your purpose, either way, your mission, and then your core values. Those 3 things make up your vision. Once we solidified the vision as a whole, that's when the major changes started to come to place. So I didn't want to overwhelm everyone here because each one of those 3 sections could be a multiple hour-long video. So we just kind of focused on the core values here today. But that was, Devin, that was probably the biggest thing that we noticed instantly with the core values. Also, the next thing was it made us clean up who we were. So one of our core values is communication. We're real big on communication here, and that's internal as well as external within the company. So we thought we were pretty good at communication, and what we realized was we needed to get better and better and better and better at it. And the more people that you expand the team, the size, the harder the communication becomes. So we need to look for new tools, new softwares, new ways to communicate with each other efficiently and effectively. And once we started doing that, the companies that were now attracted to our business were at a much better quality level. So instead of dealing with, Joe Blow, who's a reseller for, maybe 100 GPS units a quarter, calling you up and saying, hey, could you go over here and do these 2 installs for this guy? I can only pay you $40 an install. We kind of eliminated that kind of client, and we started, not only were we reaching out and getting feedback from these clients, but bigger companies started reaching out to us and saying, hey, you guys are putting something good out in the universe, and we kind of feel like we should be working with you. Here's an installer agreement, sign this up, fill this out and sign up, and we want to send you work. So that was definitely another example of what started to happen within our organization once we got the structure and the foundation more aligned with the core values, which is pretty cool. It was definitely a long process. It did not go quickly. About 6 months to figure out what the core values were. I'd say another 6 months or so to start implementing those core values. Basically, you have to make every event that pops up with your employees, a coachable event. So, if there is a problem that does not align with the core value. So let's say a guy shows up late and I'm just throwing an example out here, and your core value is, we're no tardiness. If that guy shows up late, you have to now, when you coach him that he's late, bring that in as an example. And you do that with all your core values. And you do it in both positive and negative ways, and hopefully more positive than negative. So if you have great feedback from a customer, customer submits a form on the website and basically says, hey, your technician, John Smith showed up. He was on time. He was professional. He was excellent. He did this, he did that. Now, when you go back to your team and you share with them this testimonial that the customer gave you, you also bring in your core values. Say, hey, John Smith, technician, you did a great job. And these 3 things that the customer just said that you did excellent, well, these align with this core value, and this core value. And that's why you're a great team member for us. So I hope that helps. I hope I can explain it. I know Dean goes into it way deeper than I can. He's been doing it longer than I have. He's got a ton of experience with it. So I know today's videos got kind of all banged up over here, and we're going to wind up stitching these 3 segments together so you guys get a better overview of exactly what it is. But I really just hope that you guys can pull some stuff from this. I hope that you can take this stuff and implement it into your own businesses and make your organization stronger than what they currently are. Whether you're a one-man show, a solopreneur, or you've got 100 technicians across the country, this is something that every business needs. And I think it's easier to do when you're a smaller operation because it's just you making the decisions. You have 100% control and power over what you allow into and outside of your organization, which is great. Dean, we were just wrapping up with some examples of core values and how we started using them within Top Class to kind of get some stuff growing with us, especially with hiring. I remember I came into your office one Friday and I was a little down. I was like, man, this sucks. We just got rid of our 3rd guy within like a 3 or a 6 month period. We had 3 shitty hires back to back to back. And finally you were like, I've been telling you this now for like 1.5 years, 2 years, and you need to do it. And once we did it, it made a huge difference within our operation and organization over here at Top Class. So, all right, guys, I'm going to wrap up today. We've been on this for quite some time. I know that Facebook Live wasn't the most friendly to us today. We're going to try and get better at that as we proceed and do more videos. I'm definitely going to have Dean back on here to do some more stuff if he's willing. He's more than welcome on my feed any day of the week. The guy has a wealth of knowledge. He's got more experience than I can even begin to shake a stick at. And this is just one of the topics that he knows extremely well. So if there's anything else, I'm going to throw up another poll in the group probably within the next day or so that's kind of asking you guys for what kind of information you want us to come at you with. And I want to get Dean back on here to give some more insight. And Dean, if you're open to it, maybe we can just do something right in your office where the 2 of us pop in there. We shoot one video, we turn it on live, even from your computer, and we can do some whiteboard. Maybe do like a whiteboard Wednesday or something. All right, let me know your thoughts on that. And if we give guys some examples on the whiteboard, it might just be a little bit easier. We can go take a deep dive into so many different topics that I think would really, really, really help a lot of people in the group. All right, guys, have a great day. I hope this helps. If you want to give me some feedback on this, please share, like, hearts, all that kind of crap. That way other people see these videos. And like I said, I'm going to post this up on YouTube and I'm going to stitch the videos together so it's one solid piece. All right, have a great day. Thank you so much for joining. Bye.